The thing is, I'm pretty sure that Matt Reeves' The Batman is an okay movie that could have been 100% better.
No! God, please, no!
So today I'm gonna try to argue that the Batman movie was actually incredibly stupid, not that well written, and that I'm pretty sure that people got distracted by the pretty images and the pretty soundtrack and the pretty Robert Pattinson, and they didn't really take a look at the details within this film here, and especially with the expectations that Matt Reeves has been setting up for years and years and years when it comes to this film here.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
So I'm gonna be starting by giving you a bit of a context when it comes to me, what I think about Batman just in general, and why basically my opinion I think is still an interesting opinion to look at. And it's not just that I hated the movie because I hate superhero movies, or because I hate Robert Pattinson, or because I hate Matt Reeves' work.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground! You underestimate my power!
None of those are true, of course, but I thought it would be important to start with that. Then I will go into a broader look of the film itself, and then we will start actually looking at the details, which is something that most reviewers, when it comes to American or French, they've not really been doing. They've been doing a lot of pseudo-intellectual talk when it comes to the film itself. They've all been praising the same things, and they haven't been addressing the details when it comes to the plot or when it comes to the expectations that have been set up. So that's why I really wanted to make this video here, which is gonna be a bit of a rant, I think, because I'm really passionate about this film. And I will start by saying that I completely hated the experience of watching this film at the cinema. I love Batman. I have Batman tattooed on my wrist right here. The Batman comics are probably the only superhero comics that I've read across the years. They're the only comics that tend to be well written, that tend to work on a lot of interesting themes, that tend to give you some interesting things when it comes to the visuals, but also the action sequence. I'm pretty sure that Batman has the most interesting villains and characters within its universe. Last year, actually, I made a Batman video where I was like ranking all the different gadgets, and because of that, I had to watch all the different cinematic adaptations of Batman.
I like this job, I like it.
And I got the chance to revisit all of them and get ready for this new film here, because I didn't want it to have weird expectations. I didn't want to have the Nolan films especially at the back of my mind without remembering exactly all the details. I wanted to be fresh, and that's probably why I went to the cinema with incredibly high expectations, because they told us that this Batman was gonna be different. This is a young Batman, this is an unexperienced Batman, this is a Batman that might be more impulsive, it might be a Batman that is way more brutal, this is a Batman that we have never seen before. That's what they told us, that's what they've been telling us for years and years. Even when Ben Affleck was associated with the project itself, that's what they wanted to do. And for me, it was not successful at all, because for me, it's a lie. For me, it's not true.
It's a lie! It's a lie!
When you look at the film itself, it is very obvious that it is the same Batman. It is inspired by the Nolan trilogy, specifically when it comes to the fact that he doesn't talk much, when it comes to the fact that there is that idea of him hiding in the darkness, that you never know exactly when he's gonna show up. That idea that you've got also in the second film, The Dark Knight, specifically, where you see criminals seeing the bat signal, for example, and just being like, no, not tonight, we're not gonna do it tonight because, look, Batman is lurking around, there is no point on even trying to commit crime.
Man, fuck this shit.
And they do that with the introduction of Batman in this film here. I did enjoy the introduction itself just because from a visual perspective it was really, really strong. This idea of like people just looking into like dark places and just waiting for the Batman to come out and not knowing exactly whether they should keep committing crimes or not, because there was this doubt in them, right? I really enjoyed the voiceover work and the idea of Batman just keeping journals and like trying to become like a better version of himself from a vigilante perspective, but also from a detective perspective. And of course, if you're a detective, it might be interesting to write everything down so that you see all the different patterns and it helps you like think through a lot of different cases, for example. But then we get the actual action scene where we don't know exactly which criminal he's gonna try to stop, and he stops the people at the train station where they want to attack this poor man who's probably just going home from work. And the action sequence was incredibly boring.
Holy dilemma, holy crucial moment, holy homecoming, holy cold creeps.
It was incredibly boring, and this is something that they kept doing for the entire film. They're not well choreographed, let's be honest. If you think back at other Batman films, if you look at other action films or superhero films, just the fact that we know that Batman is a highly trained, skilled warrior, these scenes here, the action sequences did not look interesting. And there is something that really bummed me out a lot, and it's when I realized that they were actually reusing the same like thumb sound effect over and over again. So pay attention if you go and see the film, or if you rewatch it as well. Every single time that Batman punches someone, it is the same sound effect, approximately.
Holy, here we go again, Batman.
And for me, that was not realistic at all. It was not realistic as well not to hear any bones cracking. It was like the most PG-13 version of Batman I've seen in a really long time. Even The Dark Knight for me was much more brutal than this film itself. And the thing is, it was all because of the expectations that they set up. They promised us almost an R-rated version of Batman. When it was announced that it was not going to be R-rated, I was of course really disappointed because I thought that this was going to be a brutal and impulsive Batman, but it wasn't. Other things that I didn't like, of course, it's the fact that there are a lot of chase sequences. For example, there are incredibly badly shot. There is the chase sequence which you've seen in the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler for now. I'm gonna try to keep it spoiler free for the beginning of the video especially. That sequence that is in the trailer is incredibly long. They try to get as close as possible to the action so that you don't understand anything that is happening here. There is a lot of rain, there's a lot of darkness because it's shot at night, and there is just two cars which are trying to drive across like traffic. Things that we've seen in so many other different films. There was nothing original about this one. If you compare this one, for example, to the stuff that we got with Nolan and The Dark Knight, that stuff was impressive.
Look out!
Like, do you remember when like the Batmobile got destroyed and there was that moment when we didn't know like whether Batman was gonna come out, and like I think there were a couple of like people who were living on the streets who were looking at this scene here, just see a couple of scenes, for example, of a screen popping and alarms being like turned on, and then literally the Bat bike would burst out going at an insane speed out of the Batmobile, and that was one of the coolest things ever. And then the chase kept going with this kind of different vehicle, and that is a problem that, for example, they don't address here. Like most of the times when it comes to the chase sequences, they're just driving around. Of course it sounds nice because the soundtrack is amazing, the sound design is really good, and it does look good just in comparison of other Batman films in the way that this Gotham here looks very gothic. It kind of looks like Tim Burton's Batman, as if you took it seriously, because I feel like Tim Burton was kind of making fun of how incredibly gothic everything was, working on a lot of different Dutch angles and stuff like that. But when it comes to this Gotham here, it's kind of like mixing out the very serious Gotham that we got with Nolan and the high production budget that we got with Tim Burton when it comes to making it look very fairy-like, very video game-like, because actually this film really reminded me of the Arkham Knight games and those kind of games. That was all the icing on the cake. When you looked past all of that kind of stuff, there was not enough substance, if you know what I mean.
I'm just here to unmask the truth about this cesspool we call a city. You're part of this too, Bruce.
The problem is that a lot of different action sequences were portrayed in the trailers, and I'm talking about the first trailer. I watched only the first trailer and I felt like most of the interesting looking scenes were in that trailer there and were spoiled by the trailer itself. There is another scene, for example, where Batman is fighting all of these goons in complete darkness and you can see the action just because of the bursts coming from the machine guns. That scene is exactly the same scene that you see in the trailer. There is nothing that has been added, there is nothing different about it. There is just more context. And that's just a shame, I think. It's just a shame. This might be one of the slowest, one of the longest Batmans I've ever seen. And I want to give you more context here. I did film studies, of course, so I am an expert on watching really, really long, slow films. I literally had to sit through 3-hour black and white silent movies like Thief of Baghdad or even Napoleon. And I still got more interesting things than from this movie here. That same day that I went to watch Batman, I actually watched Apichatpong Weerasethakul's new film Memoria with Tilda Swinton, and his whole thing is working on slow cinema, doing long takes and forcing us to kind of look at reality without the conception of filmmaking and editing disrupting the way that we experience the story. Meaning that sometimes you'd have like a 2-minute long take of just the forest and trees moving back and forth. I watched that movie the same day that I watched the Batman, and I shit you not, I had a better time watching that film, which is without a doubt one of the slowest films in history, than watching the Batman. The problem is that Batman didn't deserve to be 3 hours. There is no way that this film deserved to be 3 hours. And it's not just because the script itself needed those 3 hours. I really don't think so. I feel like there are a lot of subplots which could have been completely erased. You could have deleted almost an entire hour of this film and you could have solved most of the pacing issues that the film has, because this film has a lot of pacing issues which could have been solved in the editing room. This is the opposite problem of Justice League, the opposite problem of Batman v Superman, where probably nothing was cut out on the editing room. This is exactly the version that was supposed to come out, that came out of Matt Reeves' mind as well. I had this conversation with a friend of mine the other day where I was like, just pay attention to all the different crime scenes and Batman just standing there not doing anything. There are so many incredible scenes where just Batman has learned everything that he's supposed to learn from that specific crime scene and he's just standing there, he's not leaving. You know that meme where it's just like in the Nolan films, Batman used to disappear all the time before people finish the sentences? This is the complete opposite. This is the Batman, I'm gonna be standing there until someone literally kicks me out because, I don't know, they just wanted him to stand there and look cool.
Miss Kyle. So that's what that feels like.
And it's so ridiculous of how many times, for example, Gordon has to literally take his hand and be like, Batman, look, we actually have to leave. You can't stay here forever. And he did that like 2 or 3 times. Same thing goes with like policemen just being like, why are you here? Where clearly that investigator, Gordon, is giving him permission to be there. But we get at least like 4 or 5 different crime scenes, and every single crime scene, there's at least one person saying, why are you here? And Batman being like, isn't it obvious? Like, don't you get it when I'm here? But he doesn't say it. He's just standing around looking serious, looking very Batman-like, looking very dark, being like, I'm here because you need me to be here because you can't do your work. Which is not even fair, because to be honest, like, when they said that the Riddler was gonna be the main villain of this film, I was just like, okay, fair enough. When they said Paul Dano was cast, I was like really excited because I really love Paul Dano and I think he's a really interesting character actor. But then I looked at what he was doing here and it was so pathetic. Honestly, that performance, it's kind of like if they mixed Jim Carrey's performance with like Heath Ledger's The Joker, where you've got this kind of like, I got you, Batman, I got you.
I know why you're afraid to go out at night. The Batman.
Having a breakthrough and a breakdown? Maybe! Nevertheless, I'm smarter. I'm a genius. No, several geniuses. A gaggle, a swarm, a flock of freaking Freuds.
And other things like just jumping around and acting like crazy. Like, you know, like when people say crazy, that's what this film is about. The Riddler is the definition of crazy with a big C. And it's insane that we got a really good movie like Joker a couple of years ago where it addressed the mental health issues that he had in a very most subtle way, I think. And then we get a movie like this with a Riddler that literally looks like someone from a video game. So it's incredibly exaggerated and he looks so incredibly cringy. There were so many moments where he was addressing the camera, making those weird like YouTube videos to his community and stuff like that, where I was just like, this is a straight on copy of what Heath Ledger was doing back then with his terrorist threats, and it's just done very poorly.
Batman must take off his mask and turn himself in. Oh, and every day he doesn't, people will die. Starting tonight. I'm a man of my word.
And Paul Dano, when we actually have that reveal of seeing his face for the first time, that's not really a spoiler because we know that it's him. But I'm just saying the first time that we actually see his face without the weird masks, he just looks at Paul Dano. They didn't do any work. He doesn't have any specific haircut. He's wearing the usual like weird geeky nerdy glasses, you know. They didn't do any work on the character himself besides when he's wearing a mask, you know. It just looks like Paul Dano, and I think it's a huge mistake because they should have transformed him into someone who looked like the Riddler as well. In the same way that Jim Carrey didn't really look like the Riddler until he put on the suit and he kind of gathered that kind of manic energy, you know? But that for me was a huge problem because this is the main villain of the film. For me, it doesn't stand straight on its own legs. It just doesn't work. All the riddles themselves as well, they were so incredibly easy. Like it took me a couple of seconds to be like, oh, justice, oh, okay, that other answer. And every single crime scene was basically just like Gordon reading the message, the riddle, and Batman just in 2 seconds be like, this is the answer. And the police being like,
Zach, you're a genius. Zach, you're a genius. Zach, you're a freaky little genius.
Freaky little, sneaky little genius.
And that's how every single crime investigation scene functioned. Some were better than others. One thing that I really hated, and it goes back to the portrayal of Riddler, is that this film didn't really choose a point of view character. This is really not from Batman's perspective, it's not from Gordon's perspective, and it's not from the Riddler's perspective either, and it's not from Catwoman's perspective. It's kind of trying to give everyone the same amount of screen time and point of view shots, especially with the Riddler as well. Sometimes we get these point of view shots where we see him preparing the crime and doing the crime, and then we get to revisit the crime once again with Batman and the police. Meaning that very often we tend to investigate these crime scenes twice. Nothing is left to doubt, nothing is a mystery because we see everything coming. This is a really common problem when it comes to screenwriting, where we don't really choose your point of view character, and at the end of the day, if you show us both point of view characters, there is no tension because you know exactly what's going to happen and you know exactly how it happened. You don't have to imagine it because we just got to see it thanks to the point of view shot of the Riddler doing this, the Riddler doing that. And for me, that's an incredible thing that kind of makes everything crumble to the ground, where for me there was no tension. The soundtrack kind of signaled us that some moments were supposed to be incredibly tense and scary, and then there was these moments where the soundtrack went really high pitched, being like where like something popped out of the screen, kind of like a bad horror film. But I never felt that tension. It always felt like a gimmick. It really felt like Matt Reeves maybe wasn't as confident as we thought he was when it came to delivering a slow, almost art house indie film about a detective dressed up as a bat. He felt forced to add the action sequences. He felt forced to add all the different music tense cues so that we'd feel like the tension, even though there was no tension in any particular scene, just because he was afraid that people would get bored. And because of that, we get a film that is neither something like elevated superhero film like Joker or like Logan, and we neither get something entertaining and thought-provoking like The Dark Knight.
Certified freak, 7 days a week. Wet ass pussy.
Like, honestly, when I was looking at this film and when I was looking at the action sequences, I was like, I'd rather rewatch the action sequences from Batman v Superman when he was fighting in the warehouse, you know? Then watch these. Those add so much more energy than the shit that we see in this film here, and that makes me really mad. Because I am a huge fan of films and superhero films that try to play with the genre and do something different, but I'm not a fan of people who try to do both things, and at the end of the day, they don't do either well enough so that it counts. Another thing that I hated about this film is the fact that everyone is a villain. Honestly, everyone. Everyone is corrupt. Politician, policeman, a mob. Who cares? They're all corrupt. They're all doing this because they are bad people who want to earn more money. Everyone has fallen down that character trait where we're just all shitty people. We're not three-dimensional people. We're just like a long list of villains that just gets dropped every 20 or 30 minutes. There is literally a new side villain coming on screen being like, oh, this person is really bad. Oh, this person is really bad. So we shouldn't feel anything about them because they were really bad and they deserve to die and stuff like that. For me, that's a huge problem because you don't relate to anyone, you don't identify with anyone, and at the end of the day, you don't care about anyone. I was not afraid for anyone's sake in this film. I knew that no one was gonna die, that none of the main characters were in real danger. There was no tension when it comes to that. And I think it's really sad. Mostly because, like, the Riddler, I think he captures a lot of manic energy from the Joker as well, being like, we don't know exactly who he's going to target, we don't know what kind of secrets he's talking about. It seems like he's trying to talk about some kind of conspiracy that no one is addressing, and from that point of view, the movie was really building up to something interesting. But the problem is we didn't get the chance to actually know any of these people, so we didn't care. And at the end of the day, when you portray everyone as the villain, no one is the villain because it's just a shitty town. You know the plot that was literally the base of the Nolan trilogy, where they wanted to destroy Gotham because it was too corrupt. From the villain's perspective, there was no way the city could be redeemed, and Batman was fighting across the three films to try to redeem Gotham, to try and prove that the citizens actually wanted to reclaim the city and be honest people, okay? They did the exact same thing here. The whole film is built around the fact that Gotham is corrupt, everyone needs to die, and that's it. That's it. There's nothing new about it. They literally did a fourth film. They did a fourth film with a younger Batman. That's what it feels like to watch this film, and it's just sucks. It just really sucks, and it made me really mad to go to the cinema to spend those 3 hours watching something that I already seen, with characters and names that we already knew from the Nolan trilogy. Once again, nothing new. They had no new personality traits. They were just the same people, different actors and different faces. Catwoman as well. I knew it. I called it in the trailer. I knew she was gonna be completely useless. She's exactly the same Catwoman that we got in Dark Knight Rises. She has nothing going on for herself. She's just really poor, and she's trying to get rich and get back at rich people and the mafia because she's always been poor. That's her whole character. And she falls in love with Batman because, I don't know, they're both wearing dark leather. I don't know. Like, honestly, there is no explanation on why they fall in love. And actually, all the different shots, like where they were just standing next to each other and you could only see the silhouette of their bodies and they were sort of flirting and kissing and whatever, those were so cringy because I didn't care. Spoiler alert, there is a scene, for example, where at the end of the film they are parting away, they're going in different directions, and it's just such like a weird long take of them going on their motorbikes and just driving next to each other, and one goes forward and the other goes forward, and then they kind of like drift apart in two different directions. I was like, what is this, Fast and Furious? Like, what the fuck are you doing? We don't care about this Catwoman. We've known her for only 3 hours. Why do you spend so much time with these scenes? And there were so many different scenes like that that didn't make any sense. Alfred as well, even though I really love Andy Serkis, honestly didn't like this Alfred. It was not interesting at all. It was just, at least he participated a little bit more and was trying to like decrypt some of the ciphers and stuff like that. But even when like the bomb exploded at his place and he got injured instead of like Bruce Wayne / Batman, I didn't care that much because I knew he was not gonna die. They were not gonna introduce like a new butler Alfred to kill him like in an hour and 30 minutes. No, they were not gonna do that because this movie is about not taking risks. They didn't take a lot of risks. Maybe the only risk that they took is at the very end, so spoiler alerts once again, once it is revealed the Riddler was actually planning to put bombs everywhere in the city, like the Joker did once again, to destroy the dams, to flood the entire city and kill like a lot of people, destabilize the whatever. He was trying to like, it's a terrorist attack. He was trying to kill everyone because everyone is corrupt and he's a sad orphan, so he gets to do that, okay? That was the only moment I was just like, okay, this is cool. He actually managed to destroy Gotham, which has never been done technically in the Nolan trilogy. They always got very close, but they never actually succeeded. So I did like that kind of part, and the fact that Batman is trying to help out some people, even though that kind of weird scene where he's sacrificing himself to destroy the electric like wire, I was just like, you literally have a batarang in your hand, why don't you throw it and break the wire in that way? You don't have to jump and cut it yourself. That was so stupid. There are so many stupid things like that in the film and it makes me go insane. That whole final act, for example, wouldn't it have been much more powerful if, for example, those terrorists, instead of going up there and shooting at the mayor and that's it, because that's the only people that they actually managed to kill, even and that were shown that they managed to injure because she doesn't die in the end, of course. Wouldn't it be much more powerful if they were in the crowd just shooting at everyone? If like hundreds of people were being mowed down by like these weird alt-right terrorists, wouldn't that be way more impactful, way more scary if Batman had to try and stop them while also protecting the people who were trying to hide maybe in between all the different places in this arena? Instead, no, we get this weird scene where he's fighting above the ground, jumping from one metal bar to the other one, and Batman is getting shot by in every single place, but he never bleeds, of course. This is another thing that I hated about this film. No one bleeds. Everyone is literally a cartoon character. There is that scene that I was talking about before, the chase sequence with the penguin. He literally, like, his car tumbles like five times, approximately 5 times. And then we get the really cool shot that we see in the trailer as well with the really tense music and stuff. Doesn't have a single scratch. A single scratch. There isn't a single cell of blood on his face. That's why I didn't believe at this film at all for a single second. Wow, let's take a look at the notes and see if I've forgotten anything, because I wasn't expecting to remember so many different things. There are some minor details. For example, that moment when Batman jumps off the building wearing the kind of weird like parachute thing with like things that are like inflating on his back, and he just jumps away and he just floats down like a fucking inflatable balloon. That was the most ridiculous Batman shot I've seen since Batman 66, and this is not an exaggeration. You cannot try to argue that that shot, that whole sequence was cool, because it was not.
Holy stalactites, holy hors d'oeuvre, holy stampede, holy toreador, holy matador, holy guacamole, holy bat logic, holy straitjacket.
Remember back then, Nolan himself, he did it so much better. Scenes even in Batman Begins where Batman was gliding around the city using his weird like cape, and he actually looked like a bat, and it was really, really scary, and I really love that scene. And he does again, I think, in the second film, if I'm not mistaken. We already done it, so we already done it. We know that it looks cool, we know that the technology could be actually invented to be able to do that, and they decided to do it in the most disgusting way possible, and they actually made that choice. That's the wrong thing about it, you know, that's the thing that makes me go insane. They actually decided to make that scene look ridiculous. There is this other thing which is a minor thing, and it goes once again in direction of them repeating beats and plot lines from previous Batman films. So it's been done. It's been done over and over again, and I just don't want to see it anymore. Alfred once again reminds Batman / Bruce Wayne that he has guests, that he has responsibility to attend to as Bruce Wayne, and he's like, oh fuck that, I hate Bruce Wayne, I'm Batman, I've got more important things to do. Why do we have to do it in every single film? Why? I don't get it. Why? It's always the same. We get it. Batman fans get it. I'm pretty sure that anyone would get it as well, just because Batman is a very iconic character. Why do you need to put that scene there? That scene is completely useless. Why don't you do a film where literally Bruce Wayne almost doesn't exist? And since he's a young Bruce Wayne, that would make a lot of sense. This film portrays Bruce Wayne as like a recluse, like someone who almost never comes out of his house because he's too rich, and they probably think he's doing a lot of cool things in underground parties and stuff like that, but everyone is always surprised to see him, and they don't like really care that much at the end of the day. You could have done a story where Bruce Wayne is not even in charge of like the company of Bruce Enterprises, and where he doesn't have to do anything. He's literally just a rich kid. Yeah, he doesn't have a light, so the only thing he can do is be Batman. That's it. I fixed it in 2 seconds. Okay, he's a young Batman, so he doesn't have as many responsibilities as all the other different versions of Batman. Of Bruce Wayne, sorry, that's it. Talking about action sequences, there is that crime scene, spoiler alert, where this guy has a bomb around his neck. It's very Saw-like. When you think about it, this film is very Saw-like. A lot of different weird traps that he puts on people's faces and stuff.
I want to play a game. You have 15 seconds to give me the names of all the characters in High School Musical 3. If you don't succeed, these rats will eat your face. Choose now, live or die.
I don't know if it's a critique or not. I thought it was interesting, but I was almost like, if I wanted to see those kind of traps, I would have watched Saw. At least there is more blood in there. Okay, never mind. But anyways, there is this moment where he has to solve a riddle and answers a couple of questions and deliver the rat to everyone, to the public opinion, and he will be freed of this bomb. And he doesn't want to do that. He'd rather die. So of course the Riddler is just like, okay, then the bomb is gonna explode in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and the bomb explodes in Batman's face. Like literally, he was literally in front of him. He gave him a 5 seconds ultimatum and Batman didn't move. He didn't try to run, he didn't try to jump away. He just stood there like a fucking idiot, taking the full blast of the bomb, and of course not bleeding even a little, and then like fainting a little bit. And then there was a really stupid scene is like with the cops and everything, but we don't care about that. This is why I'm like, these are cartoon characters. Why should I care about these characters here? This is related to another riddle once again, that unfortunately for us deals with Spanish. And as you know, Spanish is the hardest language on the planet. There isn't a single blockbuster that has delivered on showing us what the Spanish language looks and sound like.
El rata alata está en la biblioteca.
And this film is just so fucking stupid with the whole thing with the El rata alata, which is supposed to be like rat with wings. And everyone in the entire film, like in the second/third act, is just like, oh, what about this person? He has the name of another animal, which could be a rat with wings. What about Batman? Batman is technically a rat with wing. What about that person? His name is Seagull. A seagull kind of looks like a rat with wings, right?
You mean where there's a fish, there could be a penguin. But wait, it happened at sea, see? Sea for Catwoman.
Yet, that exploding shark was pulling my leg.
The Joker.
I think we're slowly getting into the end of my rant. I'm gonna be addressing just like the final part of this movie here, where we get the scene in Arkham Asylum with the Riddler crying and being insane, his usual stuff.
I'm Batman.
And the Joker, who's sitting in the cell right next to him, like trying to become his friend, and then the movie ends on them laughing together or something like that. It looked like a scene straight out of a video game. was incredibly stupid. That Joker was actually Joaquin Phoenix, I would have fucking freaked out because his performance was so incredibly on the nose. It felt like I was watching like an episode of Gotham. Gotham is really bad, by the way. It's really cringy. This whole film, when it comes to the script itself, let's not look at the visuals, let's not look at the soundtrack, look at everything else. And this film here is literally an extended episode of Gotham. That's what it feels like. And you know that is not a compliment. That is not a good thing. I don't think this movie needed to exist. Honestly, this movie didn't need to exist as it is, as it stands right now. And I'm pretty sure that's also why a lot of people didn't really rush to see it at the cinema as well, because maybe they felt it as well. Just because we got so many different news about Batman appearing in Flashpoint, Batman appearing in Justice League, Batman appearing in Batman v Superman. So we've gotten a couple of Batman things across the years since Nolan. As you saw, I wanted to go into details because there are so many incredible YouTube videos that I watched across the different days since the film came out, talking about the broad lines of this film, being like, oh, look at how beautiful it is, talking about the themes of this film as if it was something completely new that we've never seen in the Nolan trilogy. But this is coming from a fan. Like, I love Batman. You know, I was really expecting to get something good and I didn't. And that's why I was really pissed off. But this is not coming from someone who hates superhero movies. It's not someone who wanted something fun and was disappointed because the film was too dark, because it was not that dark. It was dark maybe if you look at the color palette. I wanted more. I think we deserve more as fans. This film should have been a lot better. This film should have been at least as good as Joker. I don't think it should have been as fun as things like The Suicide Squad or Peacemaker or even Shazam, you know, but like, I think it definitely should have been better. For me, this movie is okay in the same way that Man of Steel was okay, in the same way that Wonder Woman was okay, in the same way that a lot of other DCU films were okay, close to being good, really far from being perfect. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and my rant. I hope that you get a chance to listen to where I'm coming from, and I hope you get a chance to look at the film in a different perspective, looking at the details themselves. Let me know what you thought of the Batman in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like this video. Every single like that you drop is a chance that Batman might get a better sequel in the future, because as we know, sequels tend to be very good sometimes, even better than the first film. Think about the Wolverine films, for example. The first, Origins, was crap. Second, pretty good. Third one, Logan, was incredible. So I think there is still hope to get like a really good Batman story that doesn't rely on a lot of things that have been built up across the years, that is actually telling something new. I'm Patrick, and this is Torn Apart.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mom. Da